Okay, now it's time to talk about what is, in my opinion, the single most dangerous enemy in the entire game, the Flamers. So, first off, the fundamental principle you gotta understand with Flamers is they need to die ASAP. You need to close the distance between them. So, counterintuitively, I guarantee you don't know how the Flamer works, because most people do this versus Flamers. They try to go back and then shoot them. This is just about the worst thing you can do, in my opinion, because ask yourself, do you actually know how the fire goes on the ground? I'm willing to bet you don't. So, watch this. If we spawn a Flamer, and then we just go backwards, see how it just leaves this trail of fire? But then let's go all the way back here, so this is really obvious. It just creates like a bomber fire puddle underneath where you're standing. It does not create a trail of fire. We can prove this by creating big breaks in the fire trail. From back here, and then we go in like this, and you see we have breaks in the trail, because as long as you're fast enough, the puddles won't continuously spawn underneath you in a clean line like they normally otherwise would. Now, this leads to some interesting implications. If you're back here and you try to like do this, all you're doing is fucking your team over by creating a huge left-right wall of flames. That's a problem. So, instead, I would argue you should do this. If a Flamer is, like, back there, try to close the distance between it. Because this is far more manageable of a puddle than a puddle that spans from sea to shining fucking sea. Now, that's not always going to be an option, and sometimes you have to shoot them. In which case, I still recommend trying to close the gap, because you're just less likely to get hit, because as you see, she has to, like, try and bend it back and try to spawn puddles underneath you. It's a lot harder to do that to a target that's running in a straight line than running left to right. Because, again, sprint speed. Sprint speed means you can run faster than the puddles spawning underneath you. Same with if you just slide. Granted, you will slide right into her fucking kick, so be ready to block. I keep letting her kick me, because I'm a literal scrub. But you just block this, and then it's not a problem. And I believe the devs would agree with me on this, because they gave them a 3 times multiplier to melee. So as you see, something as simple as this is not only able to stagger them, but also kill them, okay, even without a crit. See, even without a crit. Now, these guys are a big issue when there's a horde in front of them. They're a big problem when there is bulwarks in front of them. Bulwarks create a huge conundrum, because the same effect happens from my Bulwarks basics video, where they get that stagger effect and they don't drop their guard, and you can't fucking shoot behind them. If this happens, you absolutely are like in a code red fucking max defcon scenario. You need to do something immediately. Shout, grenade, literally anything. You have to do something to stop that scenario. Because if there's a bunch of crushers or a couple bulwarks and a flamer behind them, then you have a huge fucking problem where the flamer will just stand there and this is what causes most wipes. So, may I recommend doing something like this? If that's the case, literally just run backwards in a straight line and try to outrange the flamer. So that you can do something like this where you go left-right. Because, again, we're talking the literal worst-case scenario right now. If you have the flamers aggro, just go back, away from your teammates, away from everything, and really hope that your teammates deal with it. Also, the flamer's max distance is about 18 meters, so you can do something like this, where if it's aggroed onto you specifically, you can just kind of manipulate it like this. That's not consistent and a little cheesy, so I wouldn't recommend it. Partly because it just won't work half the time. But if you're in a literal fucking back-to-the-wall situation, you might as well try whatever you can. The best way to deal with flamers that have armor in front is honestly just try to curve around the armor and shoot the flamer. This requires teamwork. It genuinely does. Because whoever has most of the armored enemies attacking them needs to pull them in one direction, and then you need to go the other direction, and vice versa. In a group where players understand this principle, flamers are a complete non-issue. You'll literally never take damage to them. However, now, or when you're playing with pubs or in the LFG Discord, you're gonna have a huge fucking problem with this. I really don't have many other tips for you. Oh, bleed is pretty good against flamers, I guess. You know, that's pretty good. Stuns them, deals a little bit of damage. But yeah, flamers are just a really hard spot to be against because of their 18-meter range. You really can't outrange them unless you're already standing at the precipice of their range. If you're standing like this far away from a flamer, it's just not going to happen. Going left creates a big problem, and you can't even really like Tetris kind of swerve yourself like this. As you see, that just results in you getting hit. So really, if there's armor and you're mid-range between a flamer and you can't get close to it, the best way really is just have someone bring all the big guys one direction, you go the other direction and try to shoot them.